What's up guys, welcome to Voicey here. This is your host that finally bought a PlayStation 4 Pro, Captain Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called Entitled Parent Decides to Do Some Illegal Driving with a Bunch of Police Officers Nearby. I ruined her Sunday evening without saying a word to her. I have been a lurker for a few weeks and always thanked God that I never had an experience to share here. Until this Christmas dinner, I was asked to tell a story on how I completely effed this entitled parents' evening up a few months ago without saying a word. That reminded me that I had a story for the sub after all. This is a funny one. Background 1. Me and my families are quizzers. We travel around the country on our free time looking for bars and pubs that do quiz nights. On this particular Sunday evening, we were going to a quiz in a bar in a town next to mine. One of the girls on our team found that this bar started doing quizzes because she lives in that town. This will be important later, as entitled parent lives in that town as well. So I had dinner with my family and decided to meet my team there. I chose to take the national road instead of the highway because I still had time and it's more scenic. Background 2. In my country, the rules for driving in and out of a roundabout changed a few years ago, 3+ years. You used to be able to enter and exit at will, you just had to give priority when changing lanes. Nowadays, if you have a double lane entering a roundabout, by law, if you are in the right side lane, you have to exit at the first roundabout exit. For other exits, you have to enter the roundabout through the left side lane. This actually makes traffic a lot smoother because people won't be changing lanes as much. But usually, you have a 4 or 5 car line on the left side lane and no traffic line on the right side lane because people on the right side lane just enter and exit right away, as intended. Now the story. In order to get to the national road, I had to drive through a sequence of 4 roundabouts in the outskirts of my city that are next to a shopping mall. The last 2 roundabouts, first exits, lead directly to the mall, so everyone that didn't want to go into the mall parking lots would take the left lane to enter those roundabouts, like I did. On the last roundabout, I noticed a line on the left lane bigger than normal, and further ahead, on the second exit of the roundabout, my exit, I see multiple police officers on foot and police cars with lights on and whatnot. It turns out that there has been a small accident and police were called. Since everyone on the left side lane was trying to use the same exit, the third exit would be the road we were entering from and the first exit leads to the mall, so the right side line is empty. A little traffic jam was in place. 10 to 15 minutes max to enter and exit the roundabout. I waited like everyone else, except for a few cars that were using the right side lane to get into the mall. You can see now what's about to happen. As I enter the roundabout, this lady, entitled parent, comes from the right side lane and instead of exiting to the mall, she tries to cut me off. I was pretty close to the car in front of me, so she didn't have the space to cut me off completely. When the car in front of me moved a few centimeters, I moved too, and she tried to jam the front of her car in front of me. I honk my horn and look at her. She is just shouting and gesturing. Her car was literally shaking from all her jumping, shouting, and swirling. Her kids, around 10-12 years old, in the back of the car, looking at me a little bit scared. I pointed to the police cars, thinking to myself, "Lady, the police are right there. Just exit to the mall and enter the roundabout again." She couldn't care less. She was determined to cut me off and that was it. The car in front of me moved again and again I follow. She tries to jam the front of her car in front of me and I horn. Harder and longer this time, that's what she said. She horns too, even longer, while screaming and gesturing obscenities. Of course, this commotion caught the attention of a few officers, and one approached our cars to see what the horning was about. The officer signals me to stop and concede her passage. I obliged and kinda understood why. She was now creating an unnecessary traffic jam on the right side lane because I wouldn't let her cut me off. She looked at me with this grin of victory on her face, that "I beat you" smile, and proceeded to enter in front of me. The officer went back to the accident site and we kept slowly driving on and off. Now, after the accident site, there was a space on the right that accommodates a bus stop, and what would you know, the same police officer is there and signals entitled parent to pull over. I follow her because I imagined the officer would also want me to stop and reprimand us both for our childish dispute. He sees my blinker and signals me to move on, and I happily oblige. There was still a little bit of traffic, so I was able to see some of what happened through my rearview mirror. The officer was talking to entitled parents. She handed over some documents. Then another police officer joins in with a tablet or something, and they ask her to get out of the car and proceed to write her what I assumed was a ticket. Then the jam was over, and I drove away, not able to see anymore. But this does not end here. I told my friends this story on how I got a lady in trouble on my way to meet them at the bar. We laughed and played our quiz. Fast forward a week, we met again. And oh boy, this was unexpected. The friend that I mentioned earlier that lived in the same city as entitled parent told me that her parents were friends with entitled parent. She found out because she went to have dinner with her parents and another couple that were friends with her parents, entitled parent and her husband. Entitled parent proceeds to complain about how some son of a female dog got her in trouble at a roundabout in my city. My friend recognized this from my story and paid close attention without giving away that she knew it was me. According to my friend, she called me every name in the book while explaining the story. Apparently, entitled parent left her kids at the mall to see a movie while she went shopping to the city center, roughly 25-30 minutes away from the mall. What? 10-12-year-old unattended at a mall, but I digress. And they were hungry when she picked me up. These were her words as my friend told me. People these days have no respect. I am a mother and my kids were hungry. I shouldn't be waiting in lines. If mothers have priority parking, we should have priority while driving too, for the sake of our children. I tried to explain that to the police officer, but he just told me that I had to follow the rules like everyone else and gave me a ticket. My friend's father said, "Weren't you just coming from the mall? Why didn't you feed something to your kids there?" My soap opera was about to start and I was not going to miss it because they were hungry. They would have a toast or something at home while I watch my soap opera. Now, because of that crude name for a female reproductive part, I missed my soap opera episode and I was fined over €1,000 and my license got suspended. The conversation was longer than this, but this bit right here is what I found more disturbing and hilarious. As it turns out, entitled parent was fined for not respecting the roundabout rules, reckless driving for trying to cut me off multiple times, aggravated by the fact that there were children in the car, disorderly behavior, all the horning plus screaming at the police officers, which I missed, and the police ran her plates when she was pulled over and found that her car's inspection was past due a few months. Hence the tablet thing the second officer was holding. We have a centralized system. She got her license suspended until she pays her fines and was fined over €1,000. All because she couldn't wait 10 to 15 minutes in line like everyone else and tried to cut me off. In her eyes, I am still the one responsible for this. Go figure. Okay, first, let me say this. 25-30 minutes away from your 10 to 15-year-old kid, that's not a big deal. And this is coming from an American dude that lives in Texas, so everything is like 3 hours away from everything else, okay? Everything is super spread out. Hell, my school was like a 25-minute drive from my house, okay? So your kid being alone, or your kids being alone at the mall, not a big deal. Especially if they're like with friends or, their siblings, because what are they gonna do? They're just hanging out. It's fine. But yeah, that's a sign of an amazing parent, prioritizing your soap opera over your children's hunger. What the hell? This story's called Drunk Entitled Mother Force Feeds Me to Make Her Daughter Feel Better About Her Weight. I Throw Up. Woo boy! I've been a lurker on this sub for a long time, so I decided it's time to make my contribution. Obligatory notice, I'm on my phone, so sorry for formatting issues. Here's the cast. Entitled Mother, drunk woman with a classic, my kid is perfect and I'm a better mother than yours, complex. Entitled kid, at the time of this story, my best friend, although drifting away a little bit. Entitled dad, it doesn't really say much during the story. My mom, the woman that will not tolerate anyone's bull. Horses are tolerable, I'm assuming. My father, the sucker who had to pick up his crying daughter at 1 a.m. in the morning. Disclaimer. At the time, I was around 9 years old, so was Entitled Kid, and this happened 6 to 7 years ago, so conversations won't be exact, but pretty close. Now, on to the story. A little bit of background info. Entitled Kid and her family are on the more chunky side of the weight scale. I don't want to be offensive, but they were huge. This was their own doing. The mother and father were both raging alcoholics as well, the mother, Entitled Mother, specifically. School had just gotten out for term 3 break, and Entitled Kid, my best friend, and a girl in my grade decided to plan a sleepover because that's what 10-year-olds do, I suppose. I've been to her house before, so I basically just place my bag down and we go to her pool. We swam for a bit, then Entitled Kid complained that she was hungry. I brought some Doritos along, so she hinted towards those. Now, these things were cheesy enough on their own. I got extra cheesy ones. But Entitled Kid suggested we put cheese on them and microwave them to make nachos. We did, although it was kinda disgusting in my eyes, and at that point, I wasn't even hungry. Entitled Kid got a topped-up bowl, and so did I. I ate about a quarter before complaining I was full and walking inside to place the bowl on the kitchen counter. Come on, OP, I know you want more! No, it's okay. I want to save room for dinner. Just eat a bit more to make Entitled Kid feel better about herself. It's not that bad. Trying to be nice, I ate another quarter, then put the bowl down. I just wanted to go back in the pool and swim a bit before dinner. I walked back outside to find Entitled Kid eating out of a large punnet of strawberries. She offered me some, so I had about 2 because I love strawberries. But I didn't feel like I could handle more. She had the rest and we continued to swim in the pool. Me teaching her some new things I had learned from my lessons. I'm a surprisingly good swimmer without training. Still do well in high school carnivals usually. Skip to dinner. We were out of the pool and eating at the table. I had realized Entitled Mother had drunk at least 4 to 5 beers. I could tell due to the bottles on the counter and the smell of alcohol she seemed to carry around at that point. Entitled Mother places the food on the table and the 4 of us start to put some on our plates. Come on, OP, have some more. I'm not really hungry, but I appreciate the work put into making the food, so I suppose I can have a bit more. Entitled Mother decides to hit me with the comments I didn't really know how to reply to. OP, my potato bake is the best you've ever had, huh? Me not wanting to upset her, but wanting to tell her the truth, mostly. It is nice, but I honestly think it's a close second to my mom's. She puts onion in hers. In a bit of a pissy tone, she says, right. A few minutes later, as I struggle to eat enough off my plate to not seem rude, Entitled Mother brings out jelly, Jello for you Americans, and whipped cream. Normally, I love sweets, but this was too far. I was gonna throw up if this kept going. Finishing her current bottle of beer, she scooped up some jelly with a spoon and put cream on it, feeding it to Entitled Kid in the "here comes the airplane" like fashion. Come on, OP, time for dessert! Thank you, but I really am full. Entitled Mother now pushing a spoonful into my face. Entitled Kid's doing it, and you can't say no to jelly and cream! Now, in this part of my life, I was an absolute crybaby, very much a pushover, as well as seen prior. Me getting teary-eyed, please, I'll throw up. Entitled Mother finally getting the spoon in my mouth. Just a little, it'll make Entitled Kid happy. She proceeds to get another spoonful, put the bowl down, and grab my arm so I couldn't escape. She managed one more spoonful into my face before Entitled Kid called out like a hungry baby bird that hadn't been fed in a month. Entitled Mother directs her attention away and I go and sit on the couch with their dog to calm myself. It's finally time for bed and Entitled Kid flops on her bed without giving me a place to sleep, letting either of us change or brush our teeth. I felt itchy from being in the chlorinated pool, so of course I wanted to shower. Entitled Mother decides I'm not moving fast enough, pulls out a mattress which happened to be covered in sand and dirt, turned off the lights, and told me to go to sleep. I almost tripped multiple times over things trying to change in the dark and not disturb anyone, as Entitled Mother had gone around and turned off all the lights in the house other than the TV and one light in that room. After trying to sleep for about 1.5 hours, I couldn't take it and burst into tears. I felt so sick and dirty and just wanted to go home. I decided to sit on the couch and watch TV and maybe see if I could sleep a little. Entitled mother, with another beer in hand, found me and asked me what was wrong. I told her I wanted to go home. Entitled mother, a bit annoyed,
"Oh, P, you can go home in the morning. You need to sleep. You don't need to wake up your parents, do you? It'd be a waste for your mom to come pick you up at this hour. I'll make you a Milo," basically an Aussie hot chocolate, "and you can go to sleep. When entitled kid can't sleep, she has a Milo." "No, please, I'll throw up. I feel sick. I want to go home."
She sighed and called my parents. My mother answered and sent my father to pick me up. I sat on the couch for a bit before she came around with the Milo I specifically begged not to have. She places it on the coffee table and I start crying even harder. This woman wouldn't listen to me at all, even going as far as to manhandle me to get me to eat an inhumane amount of food.
"Because entitled kid does,
and
it'd make entitled kid feel bad if you eat it."
My father came and picked me up and drove me home. As soon as I got there, I ran to the toilet and threw up. My mom ran a bath for me in which I quite literally fell asleep in and had to be woken up. Bonus: my mother went off at entitled mother for getting drunk and doing this to me. She was absolutely disgusted at the situation and the fact entitled mother cared more about her daughter's ego than my well-being. Entitled kid and I later drifted apart, but that's another story. Wow, that's quite the story. Those parents, they need to not be parents. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.